Employers feel like they're giving support by ticking a box. We've done a webinar, we're giving the menopause support.
We've got a policy.
Yeah, and they're not actually hearing the women that are saying, I need help, I need support. Where do I go to for someone to actually listen to me about what's going on? And I think that's the biggest thing that we're hearing, that there's just closed doors everywhere.
Welcome to this episode of Kingsley's Compass, and I'm delighted to welcome Melissa Sookia with us today. For those of us who might be listening who don't know you, do you want to give us a brief intro?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. So I'm Melissa Sookia. I'm founder of LIVVE, which is an online menopause clinic, and we also do some weight loss as well. I've been a pharmacist for about 25 years now. I'm losing track. Previous background is working in community pharmacy, working with hospitals, working a little bit with NHS Digital, service development. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I went into private background and saw that a lot of women just couldn't get the support they needed with menopause care. A lot of women were asking me questions, asking me how to use the HRT, asking me where to get support from. And it was an area I really didn't know much about at the time. And that's when LIVVE came to fruition.
So that particularly sparked your interest, or is it just the sheer volume of people that you've sort of spotted a gap in the market?
It was a couple of things, to be honest. I didn't realise when I started speaking to my mum at the time that was the reason she had to leave her job. So my mum's called Livette. That's why I've called it LIVVE.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she had early menopause and she was kind of forced to leave work because of her symptoms at the time. She was one of few women in the workplace at the time. So I remember living with it, that she had headaches, migraines, couldn't go to work, and it was a real problem for her. So the more I spoke to her, she said, yeah, it's a thing, it's a real thing. And then more and more women were asking me about private menopause clinics, how expensive it was. They couldn't get the treatment they needed from the doctor. And then I thought, there isn't one joint up service where you can get everything all under one roof, where you can get the prescriptions, the consultations delivered to your door, have the webinars. So that's where I thought, if we can have something more accessible and affordable where we can do all of that, that would be great. So
wow. So does your mum mind us talking about her? Can you expand a little more on why it wasn't feasible for her to stay at work?
Yeah, so in those days, what she said, I'm going back, my mum's 76 now, she said that they just didn't understand what it was. They didn't understand why you were getting hot flushes, why she was getting embarrassed. She had nobody to speak to. The HR team didn't understand menopause at the time. And she just felt uncomfortable. She didn't have that support network there. She didn't have anywhere to go for a break. She didn't have anyone to speak to. And when they tried to do disciplinaries with her because of her absence or because of her time off work, because of her migraines or something else, menopause just wasn't even a thing at the time. And you think about it.
I suppose it's not something you would bring up either, is it, at that point?
Yeah. That's why she's amazed now by what she's hearing. And she just thinks, if I had that support now that I hear, if I had that support then that I hear now, I would have still been in my job for a lot longer.
Would have been that's so sad.
Yeah.
But incredible that you're doing something that makes a difference now. And it has changed a lot, particularly over, I'd say, the last 5 years in particular. It's a word that comes up all the time, but I think that also comes with its own issues, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well. I mean, in terms of that, what do you think, what's the biggest misconception around menopause that you're hearing or seeing at the moment?
As in from a patient, from a woman's perspective, or from a...
I suppose from a woman, from within a professional environment, but both from perhaps an employer's point of view, but also...
Yeah, I think from an employer's point of view, I think people are not feeling they're getting proper support. So they're feeling that employers feel like they're giving support, by ticking a box and saying, oh, we've done a webinar, tick box. Yeah, we're giving the menopause support.
We've got a policy.
Yeah, we've got a policy, but they're not actually listening, and they're not actually hearing the women that are saying, I need help, I need support. Where do I go to for someone to actually listen to me about what's going on? And I think that's the biggest thing that we're hearing, that there's just closed doors everywhere.
So in terms of the offering that you provide, how do you think that's benefiting women, and how do you think that, I know you touched on it before, it's a lot more discreet, and because if you explain, it's an online service, isn't it, that you provide?
Yeah, so we do. So we've got our patient-facing service, which is an online service. We charge £75 for consultations with our specialists. They book online, book at a time to see them, and then they have an appointment. And some workplaces are great because they'll actually let people have that time in work time as well, so they can go to a room and have that. And then our workplace offering, where we do a lot of webinars with workplaces, but we do webinars with the HR team too. So it's about empowering the HR team and making them understand what support their staff need, and just simple measures to put in place as well to help support that team, and how to make that policy actually a working policy that's not just a reading document, but where people can go to for support, and how to speak to your GP, how to track your symptoms, and how to actually make it useful for colleagues.
So from that, what do you see as the most common sort of symptoms that women perhaps struggle with in the workplace?
Okay, so anxiety is a big one. So that's one where people don't feel confident anymore, and they're getting into more and more powerful jobs. They've been in their job for a while. They're getting into higher positions, and that's they start to lose their confidence because they think this isn't for me anymore. And then they're like, actually, is it my hormones? Is it not my hormones? So anxiety is a big one. And then brain fog is probably the next one, where they'll be in meetings and then the words just go. And then that can affect your anxiety as well, and your mood and your confidence. So they will knock onto each other. Brain fog is a huge one, where estrogen has a massive impact on your cognitive functions. And then I'd say hot sweats, because they don't just affect you in the workplace when you're having, I don't know, you're doing a conference or you're doing a meeting and you start to feel the hot flushes wherever you are. If you're in a male-dominated environment, that can be quite embarrassing for whoever. Or also, it affects your sleep. So a lot of the women we're speaking to, they're not sleeping because of the hot sweats. So then they're exhausted the next day and they're really tired and they're not functioning. So I'd say they're probably three of the main ones that we hear.
They are, and I know from doing a consultation with you personally that those are all things that you do experience. And I think we've all been in a workplace. I know we've touched on this when we've spoken, the sort of aircon wars. And as a graduate who didn't really understand menopause, but there'd be women of an age in the office sat there fanning themselves, and I'm sat there in my coat. This is ridiculous. And it's not having that empathy, I think, for the people around you. But I think the sleep deprivation is awful. And that, I suppose, then you're in that hamster wheel, aren't you? You've got sleep deprivation, which adds to the anxiety and adds to the brain fog. And it's those three.
Yeah.
And that's when women, I suppose you see it and I've seen it, start to step away, or don't want to take that promotion, or don't want to have the role that they've worked so hard to obtain.
And they want to avoid confrontation. They don't want to recruit new staff. They're really struggling with difficult conversations and how to handle that, which is really hard when they've worked so hard to get to where they are in the positions that they've got, or even coming back to work. Some women have been away, they've had kids, they're coming back to work, and they don't have that confidence coming back to work and starting roles again. So it is really hard.
How do you see, because I still talk to sort of friends, family, candidates and clients who they know that it probably is the menopause, but still don't want to go and get any help. And to me, that's just crazy. If you can get some help and get you feeling like you again, how would you approach that? What would you say to women who feel like that?
And that's one where we really, really try and normalize and it's almost taking out menopause and normalizing perimenopause, because I think there's a lot of women, we see patients from the age of about 38 plus that are struggling with the hormones fluctuating, and just realizing that that is so normal. And the only way I can relate to it is periods starting, and we absolutely normalize periods starting and the hormones changing and fluctuating, and you feel all over the place. But that's just not blinked at all. But when you go through perimenopause and you're having similar kind of feelings and changes, it's just nobody wants to talk about it, and you don't want to accept why that's happening. But it's just so normal, and it can be a period of about 10 years until you get to that menopause stage where you don't feel
It's
yourself.
a long time to
Yeah,
miss out on so much potentially.
exactly. Yeah, so it's
So
that education piece and making people understand, and that's why webinars and training and doing all of that is so important. That's a big piece of what we do.
I think in terms of addressing the anxiety and brain fog, what are some things that, obviously apart from booking a consultation with yourselves, what else can women do to help themselves?
And again, we talk about this in the consultations, and it's so important that you look at all the pillars of your life. So it's looking at, are you sleeping? Sleeping is the biggest thing that we talk about, and making sure that you get time out to make sure you've got a really good sleep routine, and your sleep hygiene is really good, because when you're sleeping well, you start to eat better, you're not craving junk food the next day, and all of that has a knock-on effect. Are you exercising well? Even if it's time for a 10-minute walk every day, change your gym routine, because you might not be able to run a marathon anymore. So then people just stop doing anything altogether, because they think, if I can't do that, I just can't do anything. But just do some yoga, do some simple weights, do something. But something's better than nothing, because again, that helps your cognitive function, it helps your mood, it helps you feel better. Watching your diet's really important. We talk about that a lot to our patients, making sure you're eating your protein, your fibre, getting hydrated, because when you're having your hot flushes, you need to stay hydrated. At workplaces as well, making sure you've got access to water. And having good friends around you, or having some people to talk to, is really important.
That are in a similar situation.
Just having a connection, whether it's your partner, whether it's your parents, whether it's relatives, whether just anybody to speak to, because we say connectivity is a really good pillar as well that you need to have. So they're the things that we say are really important, as well as having medication. Even if you can't have medication, they can really, really help how you feel in that mood and your anxiety, and get you back feeling like yourself again.
I think speaking to some women, there's a lot of scenarios where you feel you may have gone to your doctors, and if you don't get a doctor that perhaps makes that connection with you, or particularly understands menopause or perimenopause, that can be difficult, because quite often I think women feel that they're fobbed off or put on just told, or just go on to antidepressants straight away without looking at anything else. So it's how do you deal with things like that?
We do see that a lot, because a lot of women they know their bodies better than they know themselves. The GP might do. So our advice is to track symptoms and have a record of it, because then you've got something. When you go to the GP, you can actually give them something, and you can say, this isn't just something I've dreamed up. It's not something I've just thought about, but I've actually got some real evidence here. Look, my periods have changed. Over these dates, I've had this panic attack, or I've had these headaches, or these migraines, or I've had these hot flushes. So then you can see a pattern build up, and you also know, actually, it's not something I've just been imagining, or it's not just. I think we try to mask things as women. Sometimes we try to brush things off, but then you're not brushing something off, because you've actually created a log of something then, and it really helps when you're having that conversation with a doctor to have that there.
No, I'd agree. I think there are also so many other sort of things that can come up, and aches and pains, really quirky things that you just wouldn't put down to the menopause or perimenopause, and then you think, well, is it something else, or am I being a hypochondriac, or what's going on? Because it feels like every little symptom at the moment can be attributed to menopause. How do you know what's menopause and what isn't, potentially?
Sometimes we don't know, and sometimes we don't know whether starting a patient on HRT is the right option or the wrong option, because we can be faced with a mixture of medium symptoms and we don't know what to do. And we then look at the patient and we think, is your life how it should be right now? How do you feel? Are you operating at 100% of who you were or how you want to be? And if they say no, and that is not how you should be, and they're not feeling happy and they're not feeling confident, and we've gone through all the other options, they've optimized their health, they've optimized their nutrition, they're doing everything else, they've been to the gym, then we say, do you know what, it's not going to do you any harm to try some HRT for a few months to let's see if that does you any benefit and that gets you in a good place. And we've ruled out everything else. We've made sure it's the safest option for them. And then we can see if that helps as well. And then we do regular check-ins to make sure that that's okay too. And I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, then that does often help, and it lifts them up and it picks them back up again.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because if you introduce, you cut down your caffeine, you improve your diet, you start exercising, you are going to feel better anyway. Why wouldn't you? But then it's understanding, well, what's really benefiting me and what's not serving me anymore, because then when you throw medication into the mix as well. So how would you phase that, or sort of balance that out? How would you phase things in?
I'd say always do the other things. So I would always say now my go-to is I don't drink caffeine anymore, because I just think sleep is priority number one. So if caffeine for sleep, then don't ever get rid of that. So
I've only managed to cut down to one after your advice, but it has worked. It has certainly helped.
exactly. And I just think I just never go back on, like, you've got to live a balanced life and you've got to think, what can I do and what can I not do? I'm not saying go to the gym every day, but you need to live a balanced life and you need to feel as good as you can do. So it's about balancing everything out and making sure you've done everything you can do yourself without burning yourself out. You're still having a nice social life and you feel as well as you can do. Are you taking supplements? Supplements is one thing that we speak to a lot of patients about as well, and making sure they're having the vitamin D, making sure they're protecting the bones, energy. Things like B12 can really help with energy levels. Magnesium can help with sleep. So it's making sure that they're doing other things as well if they want to help supplement, and making sure they're having good quality supplements if they need to.
And it's certainly good advice, and all those things make you feel so much better anyway, regardless of where you are in perimenopause or moving into the menopause. In terms of employers and the workplace, what practical steps can employers take, not just sort of creating the policies as we touched on before?
I think the main things are making sure that people realize that there's somebody there to listen to, because I think that's the biggest thing that most people don't realize, like making sure that there is someone they can speak to, and it's just how can I help, instead of being brushed off when they say that they need help. Other practical steps are, like I mentioned, about the ventilation, about the water, if there's room for flexible working, because they might need extra doctor's appointments, they might need to have an appointment somewhere, and they might be tired because of the hot flushes. If there is that flexibility possible in the working time, then that would be great. We do have some patients where bleeding has been a huge issue, and there are some workplaces, I don't know if you've heard of the black cardigan policy.
No.
That one? Okay.
Do you want to expand on that?
So in all the toilets, in the ladies' toilets, they've put long black cardigans on the doors. So if they've had to change their clothes or any reason, had to go home, then they know they've got a safe option, because they've had gushing from bleeding, which has been really unfortunate. So there's I mean, you can go as far, you can have fans at the desks, you could have cooling fans around the neck. So you can do as much or as little as you want to, but I think the main thing is, if you know that you've got women in the workforce that could need that support, it's just having that support there and knowing that they can have the support and there's somebody to listen to.
That's good. I'd not heard of that, so I've learned something new today. If you don't have that supportive environment, what sort of language or how do you think women could approach a line manager, perhaps where they're really struggling with confidence, low self-esteem?
I wonder if there's, so what we have seen in other places, I don't know how big the workplace could be, but a group of, so maybe not a direct manager, but there's like a menopause cafe or a group of work people that come together, and they set up, say, their own WhatsApp group, so they know that there's a group of people or colleagues that can talk.
It's that support network. Yeah. Which has been, but that could be outside of the workplace anyway, couldn't it? Because I suppose that faces so many women. And then in terms of colleagues, and not just colleagues but partners outside of work, what does good support? Because I know when we spoke a while ago, you were saying this is an era where you do see a lot of people sort of unfortunately separating and things like that. So do you want to just delve into that a little bit?
Yeah, we are seeing actually a lot of male partners booking on for their partners, booking consultations. We're actually seeing, so in the webinars that we're doing in workplaces, a lot more men joining the calls and the conferences and sharing their experiences and saying, actually, this is happening at home, this is affecting my work. How can I help my partner at home? What can I do to help them? So we are seeing now, as much as we used to focus just on women, it's on all sexes, all genders. It's affecting, some people saying it's affecting their mum, it's affecting their grandma, it's affecting other people. So we're seeing it's affecting a lot more people than just direct consumers who we were approaching before. So that
must be quite encouraging from your side, that people are waking up to realize that it is a pretty awful thing to go through, or it can be really traumatic for some women.
Yeah, and it's affecting the whole family, like whether it's the kids at home or whether it's a partner at home, and people want to help and they don't want to see people suffer. And how can they do it? Especially when we're seeing kids booking in for their mum and they're saying, what can we do? She's suffering, she's really struggling. She doesn't know it's menopause, but we've been on a webinar and we've seen these symptoms. What can we do to help her? So yeah, it's definitely.
Do you think that some women are just in denial, that they don't want to realize that they have hit the menopause or perimenopause?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of denial, and I think sometimes when you hear the symptoms, and there are so many, there's about 48 symptoms, a lot of women are like, I didn't realize that could have been menopause. I thought menopause was when you are 55, your periods have stopped, and that's when you get help. I didn't think you could get it before that, and I didn't think there was any options before that. So I think when people are hearing that there are options before that and you can get help, it's an eye-opener.
It is. It's that miscommunication, or the sort of urban myths. In terms of, so on that, what one myth would you love to retire for good? That it doesn't just hit you at 55.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be it. 100%. Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more science around it. But then on that, there's a lot more help out there that you can seek now.
Yeah. And I think everybody's behind it. It's so nice to see so many people. Like what you're doing now is amazing. It's great to see that you're doing this, especially in your industry. I don't know if you get to hear much about it. And
I am hearing of some of my clients are now bringing in consultants like yourself to educate people, and not just educate the women in the team, but it's also to educate the men as to how they can be supportive. And because I think it all goes back to looking after your workforce and your staff and showing them that support, because that's repaid in the long term, and it's something that we can't help that we're going through. But if we're I know from my own experience, if someone points you in the right direction, like yourself, it makes all the difference. It sounds ridiculous, but it's absolutely life-changing. And it's just some really simple tweaks that you can make. But it's that journey, isn't it, of getting it right, and that can take a while as well, which I think we're so impatient with the quick fixes.
And that's the other reason we priced our prices like we did, because I think for the price that we charge compared to other places that charge about £300 a consultation, we wanted to make sure people could keep coming back to check in, because when you're on a journey for maybe 20 years, things change, your symptoms change, your medication changes, and you need to know that you're on the right path and you're doing the right things. So it's really important that you can do that.
I think also for those women who maybe through medical, have had breast cancer or something, and you can't be on HRT, and it's really important to know that there are other options and things that you can turn to, which is vital.
And we speak to a lot of patients that have got breast cancer, and for them, it's knowing that they've got someone to speak to, that they've got options, and how do they optimize their health as it currently is and put themselves in the best position that they can do. And there are other treatments out there that they can use for hot flushes or the anxiety, and it's just knowing what they can and can't take and what are the safest options for them.
I suppose research and science is changing all the time, it evolves all the time, and so does the advice. So you must be seeing lots of new things coming through as well, or it's certainly changed over the last few years.
Honestly, I'd say because we do the weight loss as well, we do the weight loss service, there are so many new things coming out, and people want, especially along with menopause, a lot of women are struggling with their weight. So we're seeing a lot with the weight loss. We're seeing a lot of supplements coming out. We're seeing new things for bleeding, endometriosis, polycystic, because the women's health, there's so many things that go alongside the menopause and the women's health. And I think as a market, we're just getting better at being more educated and informed and treating it. So it is great to be in this space right now and see how we can help that.
So before we finish, what are you most optimistic about the future of women's health?
Good question. Do you know what? I'm most optimistic that it's not just going to be women trying to change the narrative, but I think everyone's going to be changing the narrative as well. I feel like everybody's trying to be saying the same thing, and I think we're all trying to support everybody in it. It's not just, I don't think we're all just going to be shouting for help for ourselves, but you can see that everyone's seeing the benefit of improving women's health, which is great to hear.
And what's your one piece of advice for those women who are maybe sat at home or at work really struggling, but not doing anything about it?
Literally, do not wait a second longer, and either book an appointment with a GP, book an appointment with a specialist, speak to a friend, but you are not alone. And that's what I say to everybody that has waited a month, 3 months, 6 months, and they say to me, I wish I'd come to see you sooner.
Yeah, I was one of those people.
Feel so much, and they honestly, when we have our 4-week check-in with them, they're like, why did I not speak to you sooner? Because I feel so much better already.
That must be so rewarding for you. It's to see that change in somebody as well in such a short space of time.
Yeah, no, it is. It is good.
And my very last surprise question: favorite tree? I do this to everyone. What's your favorite tree? I love trees. What's your favorite?
It's a silver birch. Does that
any reason, or you just like it?
My friend paints them, and they look really pretty, and I really like them.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. Good answer. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
I'd like to know that one now.
For anybody who would like to check out Melissa and the amazing work that she's doing, check out her website, which is www.livve.uk.
Yeah.
Got that right?
Yeah. With 2 V's.
Great. 2 V's. Yeah. We will put it on the bottom. But thanks so much. It's been a pleasure, and I will speak to you very soon.
speak to you soon. It's Caroline.